Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Aaron Mulvey. I'm the president of the Student Government Association here at UIS. I'm also the co-chair of the UIS nickname Mascot Task Force. I also have with me Van, who's the Assistant Vice Chancellor to Student Affairs, and Kim Pate, who's also the Athletic Director here at UIS. We're here to talk about, obviously, the possible change in the nickname Mascot Task Force, and I'm going to kind of give you the background, history information as to what led us to this point. Van's going to take over talking about some of the stuff that went on during working with the consultant, and then Kim's going to take over and discussing the possible changes or no changes, which, you know, will be discussed throughout these forums as they go on this week and therefore after. What led us up to this point? Last year, there were several SGA members that had heard over the years just discontent and kind of confusion over our nickname Mascot, what it is. Are we Prairie Stars? Are we Stars? Are we a Cosmo, the cartoon character mascot? That has often been discussed. So after a few discussions with SGA members and students and faculty, staff, we decided let's just reach out to the campus. Let's have a survey. So we reached out, we conducted a survey with the Survey Research Office in December. And even at that point that was going on, actually, I have a personal story. Before the survey got initiated, but we were gonna initiate it in about a week or so, I was in my public class for public affairs and relations, and we were discussing there was some little story on public relations that had to do with another school's mascot, and it just had people stirring about our own mascot. And this was a week before we were even initiating the survey, and I just heard all those questions arise again. Like, I heard people saying, what is our nickname? What is our mascot? Aren't we a Prairie Star? No, someone said we were a star, and then people were like, I thought we were that cartoon character Cosmo. So that kind of just gave us more reason justified to conduct this survey. And as the survey was conducted, that was in December of last year, we had nearly 760 respondents, which was pretty large. It was a pretty big number, and I think it was the largest the Survey Research Office had ever had. And as the results came in, I'll give you a few numbers here, but you can also look them up on our website. If you go to uis.edu, you go to the A to Z index, go to student government, and you can go to our initiatives page, and we have links to the specific results up there. But I'll give you, the overall vote was 54% strongly in favor of a change, 21% somewhat in favor of a change, 6% somewhat not in favor of a change, and 19% not in favor of a change. With over half of the respondents saying they're strongly in favor of a change, that kind of, led us to think that we probably, should respond to this. The SGA should do something about this, as we are, directing the will of the students. And if you include both of those numbers combined, that is 54% and 21% strongly and somewhat in favor, that is about 75% of the campus, of the people that responded, wanting a possible change in the nickname Mascot. So that led us, the SGA, to create a task force, which I am co-chair of now. This started in about January, February of this past year in the spring semester. And pretty much we gathered a lot of representatives on campus. We have a representative of student life. We have several students, including student athletes. We have community outreach. We had alumni relations representative, and we still have all those representatives now and several others. Getting like a full reach of the campus, because what the task force did was conduct a lot of outreach. We tried to get our constituents and tried to feel out the pros and cons of this, possible change on campus and how it would affect each sector of the campus. So after we did that all of spring, we compiled a report, and this report went to the Chancellor's office with a few recommendations, and one of those recommendations was the hiring of a consultant. And some of us SGA members near the end of the year actually worked with the office to hire this consultant. And at that point, I will turn it over to Van to talk about what work has been done with the consultant since then.
Hi, I'm Van Verge, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs. After the task force report was submitted to the Chancellor asked Dr. Barnett, myself, Kim Pate to join her, look over the report. In the report also, they had checked out 3 different consulting firms that normally handle name changes. or enhance your current mascot, team name, different things. So the choice was to look at those three, see which one mostly matched what we were wanting to do, whether it was just to enhance Prairie Stars, or change to something else. So that was the task that we were given. So we took one of the recommendations of the three that were recommended for consultant, and Studio Simon was selected. The objective was detailed that research and identify names for the University of Illinois Springfield athletic program, develop a brand identity around those themes that will allow the athletic program to be viewed as a point of pride in the eyes and the minds of current students, prospective students, student athletes and athletic staff, faculty and administration, alumni, and the Springfield community. And then we got some benefits of a strong identity, generate campus pride, foster student involvement, increase logoed merchandise sales, cultivate donor support, increase marketing opportunities, generate creative promotional ideas, attractive to athlete recruits, attractive to prospective students, create excitement, and differentiate your school. So those are the things that we tasked the consultant to do. And then Kim's going to talk about, as we contacted the consultant and brought him to campus, where we went from there.
Thank you, Van. Well, I'm going to pep everybody up. Come on, let's wake up. It's noon. I know you're hungry, but you know, I think looking at this particular slide, I think one of the things that I came to be even, more aware of, even as an athletic director, is the importance of a strong brand, a strong identity. It's more than just the name, and it's more than just the logo. And so it's not just the artwork that goes with it. It's not just the name that we refer to ourselves. It is really all-encompassing. And we hear a lot about brand identity just in the business world. And so sports marketing and brand, sports branding, it's really kind of a new concept in the last 20 years. 30, 40 years ago, when schools were picking names, it was really just about whatever. We don't really know what went into those considerations, but it is definitely more an applied practice these days. And so hiring a consultant is really beneficial for us because it helped us to understand what we could ultimately accomplish with our brand. Regardless if we stay the Prairie Stars, we drop the Stars be the Prairie be the Stars, or we change. I recognize as athletic director, and I'm sure many of you do, that we need to strengthen our brand, our awareness. And really it is what are the tools we will have in our kit to be able to allow our constituents to grab hold of it. What is a Prairie Star? What is any other name that you can think of? What are the different things that we're doing to market it, but what can we do with it? And so I just want to kind of throw that out there, because as we share these names, we're really not going to be talking about the names, we're going to be talking about the whole identity. What will it look like? What will it entail? What can we do with it? So I just want to kind of share that with you, because it's not just the names we're going to share, it's the whole package, okay? Okay, so our consultant provided us with 3 areas of consideration for criteria. These are the standard, according to our consultant, what other schools consider when making a consideration of alternatives or any kind of name consideration. So the first being relevance. Is there any kind of connection to the school, the city, the region? Relevance is one of the areas that we consider. And just to kind of give you a sense for the spectrum of relevance, he provided a 10-point scale, which will look at all of the considerations on this 10-point scale, 1 being the least, 10 being the highest. And so he provided some examples. I don't know if you can see it, but relevance as far as Rutgers Scarlet Knights, there's really no relevance for as far as a Scarlet Knight in Rutgers. We don't know if there were Knights there at one point, but we doubt it. So, that kind of gives you a sense where there's really not a lot of relevance there. Still works though, okay? Then you have Wisconsin Badgers. Obviously, Wisconsin is the Badger state, and so there's nothing probably more relevant than Wisconsin Badgers for Wisconsin. So that's relevance. Our consultant did share with us that there are some schools even today that consider a name change that might select something that may not be relevant. It's not the most important criteria, but it is something that he suggested we look at. The next area for consideration or criteria is presence, the fear factor, the intimidation factor. Really, will it draw any kind of fear in your opponents as far as from an athletic standpoint? Is it an intimidating name that will draw some type of, that creates that kind of presence or strength? And so for examples he gave us from 1 to 10, the Whittier Poets, there's not a lot of presence and strength there. It doesn't necessarily draw fear in your opponents. On the opposite end, you've got the Florida Gators. So obviously that imagery, the name, kind of presents that fear factor. So that's fear factor. The last is creative opportunities. This is the most important criteria as far as a brand identity. This is what you can do with that particular name. What you can do with the logo, the mascot, what your student section can do, what you can do with promotions, the different aspects of imagery you can present around it. This is the piece that we paid particular attention to, as well as presence and strength. And we said it would be great if we could have some type of relevance. I mean, we would like to have something where people would go, oh, I get it, there's a connecting point. But we obviously wanted to focus on the ultimate brand, having the best brand we could. So the themes that our consultant looked at were state capital, Illinois, the prairie, Lincoln, unique animals, and also self-referential, which I'll come back to that one when we get to one particular recommendation. So as Aaron mentioned, to ease anybody's fears, prairie stars and stars are not off the table, okay? We did ask our consultant to provide us some feedback on them. And he did share with us that there are 3 schools right now within 3 hours that are already the stars. And so one of the things that he shared with us when you're creating a brand identity is differentiating yourself. You don't want to be like everybody else. In order for you to have a strong brand, you want to be able to set yourself apart. Ultimately, it'd be great if we could be singular and unique. The only, and right now we are the only prairie star. And so he shared with us that there are 3 stars already within the region. And then he provided sort of some feedback on us for as far as relevance. Obviously there's a connecting point because we have some equity built up in stars. We already are calling ourselves stars. Our students already cheer for the stars. And so we have some connecting point there. Presence. It doesn't score like the Whittier Poets at the bottom, but it doesn't have a lot of strength of presence, not that intimidating. Although that angry star mascot is pretty intimidating. I've seen that face, it's pretty intimidating. Creative opportunities. He did share with us that he felt like we were limited here with stars, as well as prairie stars, as far as what we could do with it, what he could help us do with it. Because obviously, there's just, it's not a lot of imagery that goes with stars. So that was his feedback on stars. So here's the first recommendation. Mammoths. Mammoths are relevant in the sense that there have been over 60 mammoth finds in the state, including one in Lincoln, 40 miles northeast of us. There is a mastodon on display at the Illinois State Museum right here in Springfield. This is one of the most prominent prehistoric animals that the Illinois State Museum recognizes as far as a mammal. And so that is their first recommendation. Relevance, obviously, I touched on that. Presence, being that it is a larger animal, has those enormous tusks. I don't know if I'd want to tangle with one. It certainly offers us that. And then the creative opportunities, the things that you could possibly do with mammoths, as far as the imagery that you could pull from with the tusks and just the woolly mammoth itself. What could your mascot look like? What could you do to play off of it? It is singular. There are no other college athletic programs that are the Mammoths. There are a few minor league teams like baseball that have taken the name Mammoths, perhaps even a football team, but there are no other collegiate teams named the Mammoths. This is just an example, okay? He gave us an example of what our logo could look like. And remember, it's all about the entire brand. It's not just what this particular mark looks like. It is subject to change, but this is one example of what our logo could look like. And then here are some examples of what it could look like within our brand: on flags, on the gym floor, and then of course on apparel. Okay, the next recommendation: Sabers, the saber-toothed cat. There are there's sabers like buffalo sabers. That is a different saber. That is RE, and it's actually the saber sword, okay? There are no other college programs that are the saber-toothed cats. There's one other that spells it differently. It's really supposed to be ERS, but we would be unique in regard to sabers. And so saber-toothed cats used to roam the Midwest. They are the most iconic prehistoric predator. There is even one, I think, somewhere on display on campus, like a skull, like a cast of one here. I don't know the relevance there as far as why it's here, but they did actually pursue the prey about 10,000 years ago. They were a predator of mammoths and other types of animals that roamed the earth around that time. So there's the relevance piece. Presence, obviously, there's nothing more intimidating than a tiger in general. It certainly provides that. And then creative opportunities. It provides a lot of different creative opportunities as far as the imagery that you can play from, whether it be the cat paw or scratching marks that you could use in your publications. Obviously, your mascot, your logos, your marks. There's just so many things that you can pull from a cat, tigers in general. So this is their first example of what it could look like, okay? It probably would change if this were to be, because we said we'd like it to be front on as far as athletics. We've had some other feedback from student athletes, but we'd be interested in your feedback too. But this could change, but this is just an example of what it could look like. So just some other examples. Okay, the next one, springers. As I mentioned, there were a couple different areas that they looked at. Self-referential. University of Illinois, Springfield Springers. So Springfield Springers, they're playing off of Springfield, obviously. There is no other Springer. There are 12 dogs that have been used in college athletics. And so Springers would be the 13th. It's similar to the Stevens Point Pointers. Very similar dog, actually. And so it's a hunting dog, a very athletic dog, very loyal dog, flushing dog, actually. And so, like I said, there are some other schools that have already done this. As far as relevance, it's the self-referential. Otherwise, Springers would not be, it would not be something that we would connect with. There would probably never be another Springfield Springers because of the uniqueness of it. Presence, it's not quite as intimidating as some of the other examples. It's not exactly a Rottweiler or even a bulldog. It doesn't have that same kind of fear factor. And then creative opportunities. Dogs are great. I mean, we've all seen other schools with dogs and what the student section's able to do with it and the imagery you can do around it. Your sort of kids clubs and different things you can play off of. This is the example of the Springer that they gave us. Could change. That is a pretty intimidating Springer, though. And finally, the Stampede. Okay, obviously buffalo and bison used to roam the Midwest, and so very relevant as far as that. There have been a number of buffalo and bison, and so what our consultant did not want to do is to make us just another buffalo and bison. From our brand standpoint, he wanted to make sure he gave us something that was unique. There have never been any other schools named the Stampede. There are some professional and minor league teams that have taken the name. No professional teams in the U.S. There's a Canadian football team called the Stampeders. And so it has been used in that reference before. This is similar to the Marshall University's Thundering Herd, and the imagery they use is the buffalo. And so they would play off the imagery of the buffalo and bison. Stampeding. As far as relevance, it has relevance because obviously buffalo used to roam. Presence offers us the presence aspect as far as buffalo are very strong animals, and it's on the nickel, so it is an American icon. And then creative opportunities, it does provide us a lot of different opportunities, maybe not so much as some of the others, because a lot of them have already been done before, but it does provide us the opportunity to play off of the herd concept, the thundering concept, the stampeding, and also just the imagery of buffalo and bison. So this is the example of the mark that they gave us. And then here are all four. I think the one thing that, that is to also recognize that we would have more than just one mark. We would end up with secondary marks. We would end up with a mascot. This is just the beginning of the process. And so it will allow us to develop a multifaceted identity system for us to promote our nickname and our mascot. But I would just urge you not to get too caught up in the look right there, because that could change. That's just one particular first draft of possible considerations. So I'm going to turn it back over to Aaron.
Okay, and I just wanted to give a little brief overview of moving forward. What we're going to do, we're going to have these forums, of course. We're having today's. We have one later today, this evening, and we have one tomorrow night. And after the forums, we're going to get feedback. We're actually going to hand out some ballots to you guys, and you can make your selection. This ballot is kind of an initiative. It's nothing binding, though. This is ultimately what the task force is going to do. We're going to reconvene after the Thanksgiving break and discuss strengths and weaknesses of them all. And this ballot initiative will give us some direction, but it's nothing final, nothing binding. But we're going to analyze pretty much everything we've done throughout the year, including these forums, including feedback from this and the ballot. And this report will ultimately, once it's compiled, hopefully by January or February, will go to the chancellor. And ultimately, it is her final decision as to what will happen regarding this issue. So if anyone, we can have some questions. If anyone has any questions regarding any of this that me, Kim, or Van could help answer, we're open to anything.